Hello everyone, welcome to Primetime Recaps. Please like and subscribe to support the channel. It will make us happy and help us keep making videos like this. Today, I'm going to be explaining a movie titled The Northman, released in the year 2022. Warning, spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie opens up in the North Atlantic in the AD 895. King Orvandil and his half-brother, Mjolnir, return to their kingdom with so much treasure, after their overseas conquest. King Orvandil then reconnects with his wife Gudrun and his son Amleth. The king gifts his son a special necklace he seized from the prince he had killed. Mjolnir also reconnects with his son, Thorir. Sadly, his mood changes suddenly when a jester named Hymir makes fun of him. Later that night, Orvandil spends some time with his wife and shows her where he's been wounded. When Gudrun sees this, she is deeply worried, but he assures her that his wounds won't take his life. He tells her he'll die as a hero and not an infidel. He also prepares Gudrun for the worst in his next quest and battle. Later the same night, Orvandil takes his son to the temple so that he can undergo a spiritual ceremony so as to become a man. Overseen by Hymir, father and son display their inner wolves' ability during the ceremony. Amleth is blessed with the knowledge of the tribe for which he must swear to live with honor and avenge his father if he ever falls to the hands of the enemies. The drink Hymir gives him causes him to see a series of hallucinations, and when he touches his father's wound, Amleth gets the entire family tree revealed to him. In the morning, the two of them leave the temple. They are suddenly ambushed by a group of masked warriors on horses. Amleth moves to help, but he is stopped by his father and hides behind a rock to see how these men kill his father with multiple arrow shots. It happens that the leader of the group is Mjolnir. He wants to get rid of his brother and take over his throne. Afterwards, he assigns his soldiers to search for Amleth in the woods. Amleth runs further away into the woods, but he is soon caught by Finir. He immediately cuts his nose off with a knife, then escapes Finir's grasp. Soon after, Amleth makes it back to his village where soldiers are slaughtering anyone in support of Orvandil. He sees that Mjolnir has kidnapped his mother and taken over the village. Finir on the other hand comes back with the news that Amleth is dead and his body has been thrown into sea. Following this, Amleth goes to the seashore, steals a boat and vows to come back and avenge the death of his father and rescue his mother someday. Years later, Amleth now lives in the land of the Rizikers with a tribe of the Vikings. He's forsaken his prince life to become a fearsome warrior that helps his band raid villages, kill their soldiers, claim the women and gather young people to be sold as slaves. After the smooth raid of Gadarigi, Amleth excuses himself from the celebration and decides to take a walk. He suddenly comes across a temple with a seeress who predicts that his revenge will be victorious, on the condition that he must go to the north where a woman named Phone currently resides. She also says that he must follow a vixen to seek a fated sword that will match his rage. The seeress disappears after clarifying that she's only helping him because his path is intertwined with a maiden king. The following day, Amleth hears the slaves they've captured will be sent to Iceland to work for Mjolnir, and he uses the opportunity to gather some information about his uncle. He discovers his uncle fled to the Blackwater with his family, after the king of Norway took the kingdom from him. Amleth sees a raven and remembers his father used to be called a Raven King, and so, he takes this as a sign. Afterwards, he comes up with a plan to cut his hair, hide his clothes, steal some necklaces from a body, and he then brands his chest with a slave mark. He sneaks aboard the ship that will take the slaves to Iceland. There, he meets Olga, who claims to be a sorceress. She knows he is a Northwind, but she still treats him kindly and even comforts him when at night his dreams are haunted by visions of the past, the future, and Olga herself. Soon, the ship is shaken by a storm on the way, but the party still manages to make it safely to Iceland. When they arrive, they are picked up at the shore by Mjolnir, who puts all the slaves in chains and guides them to Mjolnir's farm where he lives with a now adult Thorir and a second son. The young Gunnar Mjolnir didn't like that the slaves look weak, and so, he wants to send them away. Thus, Amleth hits the man next to him to show off his strength and introduces himself with a false name. Mjolnir decides to keep him, and he also chooses 2 men for the fields and some mates for his wife, taking special interest in Olga. Later at night, at the farm, Amleth tries to steal a knife, but he gets distracted when he sees a vixen on the field just like the seeress had predicted. This means he's on the right path. The following day, Amleth pretentiously works hard as a slave, and this gives him the opportunity to enter Fjolnir's home. He soon makes a shocking discovery that his mother Gudrun is there, alive and well. She had Gunnar as Fjolnir's new wife. Moments later, Olga checks on him to see if he's gathered information, but when soldiers see her out of her station, they come to take her away. At night, Amleth follows the vixen and finds a wizard inside a cave. This man instantly recognizes Amleth and shows him he's kept Hymir's head since he was killed by Fjolnir. Through a special ritual, the wizard invokes Hymir's spirit and gets the head to talk directly into Amleth's mind, telling the tale of a legendary sword, which can only be unsheathed during the night. In order to find it, Amleth must visit the owner of the sword, the Mount Dweller, and be sure to trust the moonlight. The wizard also tells Amleth one last prophecy. He says one day you'll have to choose between his kin or hate for his enemies. Thereafter, Amleth enters the mountain and finds the body of the Dweller, sitting with a sword on his lap. As soon as Amleth tries to take the sword, the Dweller awakes and begins to attack Amleth. As a result, Amleth must defend himself with any trash confined around it. When the Dweller walks around the ray of moonlight that slips through the mount's entrance, Amleth remembers the wizard's words and pushes the body under the light. The Dweller freezes and gives Amleth the chance to kill, but as soon as he turns around, Amleth finds himself back at the beginning in front of the Dweller, but this time, when he tries to take the sword, he retrieves it without issues and returns to the farm. He is then seen by Fjolnir's dog. He starts barking to make him quiet. Amleth roars at him, getting Fjolnir to dismiss the barking as unimportant. Fjolnir then goes looking for Olga to spend the night with her, but Olga shows him her period, meaning she isn't available. She also tries to attack Fjolnir, but he just easily pushes her aside and orders his guards to teach Olga some manners before leaving. Amleth sees all this from his hiding spot and thinks it's the perfect moment to attack, but the sun is rising and he cannot cheat the sword, so he hides it until the right time comes. The following day, Amleth tells Olga about the sword and she agrees to help because she wants her freedom too. She has access to the kitchen, but Amleth makes it clear that he intends to rescue his mother too. Gudrun is just another victim and she plays along with Fjolnir's wishes for her safety and Gunnar's. Soon after, Fjolnir takes his family and a selected group of slaves to meet with the chief and his people for a dangerous match. The game consists of 2 teams of 5 warriors that fight over a ball in order to score, and killing is allowed. Amleth is chosen for Fjolnir's team and finds himself in a brutal sport where little by little each player dies. At the end, Amleth is left with one very big opponent. Fjolnir's team is losing and that drives Gunnar mad, so he tries to steal the ball to score, but he is attacked by the opposite team's player. Before he gets killed, Amleth jumps in his defense and kills his opponent. Later on, during the celebrations, Thorir approaches Amleth to congratulate him for his loyalty and bravery, and as a reward, he says Amleth will have privileges at the farm. He will work less, command the other slaves, and be allowed to choose a woman for himself. Thorir tells him he's even allowed to choose Olga because Fjolnir has given up on her and her attitude. Amleth doesn't think about it twice and looks for Olga, then takes her into the forest so they can get busy without anybody else watching. Once they're done, Olga uses her abilities to talk to Mother Soil and ask for her protection. They also find some special mushrooms that will help them with their plan for revenge, which will finally start when they return to the farm. The following day is spent working normally, but when night falls, Amleth ambushes 2 of Gunnar's companions and kills them. He uses their body parts to make a center form and leaves it to be found by the leaders. The next morning, Gunnar is very furious when he sees it and swears revenge on the Christians, because he believes it was them that did the evil act. However, Fjolnir is doubtful, so he consults the priestess. The farm's priestess checks the bodies and informs everyone that the wounds aren't from this world. She says whoever did this, it's hungry for more and will attack again. Later that night, while the priestess prepares a girl to be sacrificed to the gods for protection, Amleth provokes all the animals in the area into barking and howling. This drives Fjolnir's dog mad, and as a result, he attacks his master and Fjolnir kills him in self-defense. While everyone is distracted by the animals, Amleth enters the temple, frees the girl, ties up the priestess instead and kills the priest before hanging him at the altar. The next day, while Amleth secretly adds mushrooms to this stew, the male slaves are given a new chore of protecting the farm from any incoming attack. Later in the evening, Fjolnir's men begin to hallucinate. This causes them to attack each other or even themselves. After talking to Olga to agree on a meeting spot at dawn, Amleth sneaks inside the main house and surprises his mother by revealing his true identity. Gudrun is happy and proud to see him alive, but she's got shocking news for him: she doesn't need to be rescued. She says Orvandil had lied to Amleth when he told tales of his romance with his wife. Gudrun had actually been a slave that the king took by force. She never loved him or mourned him. In fact, she was the one that begged Fjolnir to kill him. On the day she betrayed her husband, she hadn't been screaming, rather, she had been happily laughing because she finally was with a man she actually wanted. Amleth starts to think he should kill her as well, but she reminds him that he's a man full of love for his mother and his brother. If he kills Fjolnir and Thorir, Gudrun would accept Amleth as her new king and they could rule together. She goes as far as kissing Amleth, but he doesn't fall for it. Instead, he leaves her behind to find Thorir. When he sees him, he kills him on his bed. Afterwards, he meets with Olga to tell her he'll be hiding in the hills because Gudrun knows his identity and so, he can't play the role of a slave anymore. As a result, he suggests they finish their plan the next day. In the morning, Fjolnir is mad with grief when he finds Thorir's body without the heart and Gudrun tells him that Amleth is responsible for the act. Fjolnir decides to start killing slaves to make them confess what they know, but when he is about to kill Olga, Amleth reveals himself to stop him. He is wearing his prince necklace again and after using his real name, he shows that he has Thorir's heart. Fjolnir sends his men after him and Amleth fights them off, thus, giving Olga time to escape. Then, he allows himself to be captured. Thinking himself victorious, Fjolnir takes Thorir's heart back but Amleth reveals it actually belongs to the dog. Enraged, Fjolnir hangs Amleth within the barn and beats him up to make him confess the location of Thorir's heart, but Amleth refuses. Fjolnir needs to leave for Thorir's funeral, but promises to come back later to finish Amleth. On their way out, one of the men drops his sword on the ground, thinking it's useless because it can't be unsheathed. As soon as everyone's gone, a group of ravens shows up with a hooded figure and they free Amleth. The people of the farm give Thorir a proper ceremonial funeral and Gunnar is declared the only heir to the throne. Later on, they go back to the barn to kill Amleth, but by the time they get there, he's already gone. Meanwhile, Amleth finds himself on a horse ridden by a Valkyrie that is taking him to Valhalla, but suddenly he wakes up and realizes it was Olga that saved him. He thinks the fact she came back for him must be a sign of fate inspiring Amleth to run away with her. He has kinsmen in Orkney, so they could find passage there. After riding, they find a boat and are allowed aboard. Amleth notices Olga has a scar on her neck that Fjolnir left there with his knife and decides to kiss it for comfort. This act gives him a vision of the family tree again as learns Olga is pregnant with twins and one of them will be the Maiden King from the Seeress prophecy. This should be good news, but Amleth is afraid that his children will never be safe as long as Fjolnir is alive. He then remembers he was told he would have to choose between kindness for his kin or hate for his enemies and Amleth decides to choose both. While Amleth swims back to the shore, Olga calls the wind spirits to protect the ship's journey. When night falls, Amleth sneaks back into the farm and begins to kill all the warriors, taking extra pleasure and slowly finishing Fjolnir. After he frees all the women, Amleth enters the main house and is attacked by Gudrun, who is wielding a sword Fjolnir left her for protection. However, she has no sword training and this makes it easy for Amleth to kill her with a sword through the heart. At that moment, Gunnar shows up and jumps on Amleth's back to stab him a couple of times, but Amleth shakes him off and quickly kills him as well. Fjolnir shows up and picks up the bodies of his family. He asks Amleth to meet him at the gates of hell, meaning the crater of the volcano, Hekla, for a final proper fight. With Amleth bleeding heavily from the stab wounds, he watches the slaves burn down the farm before leaving for the volcano. On his way up to the crater, Amleth finds the bodies of Gudrun and Gunnar, so he gives them his blessing before finally meeting with Fjolnir. Both men are outstanding warriors and so the battle is pretty balanced at first, but Amleth is already hurt, thus, it doesn't take long for Fjolnir to overpower him. However, Amleth finds strength in his anger to rise again. At the end of the movie, after a tough fight, both men kill each other at the same time. As Amleth passes out, he has a vision of Olga with his twins before a Valkyrie appears to take his soul through the gates of Valhalla. I hope you liked the movie. Thanks for watching.